Welcome to the biology class. So the topic we are going to cover is 1.3 features of organisms. So before we move on, recently I started making these videos. My videos are getting a little bit lengthier, about like 20 to 30 minutes or 30-minute plus. So a student told me that I should make maybe shorter videos, like 4 to 5 minutes, maybe maximum 10-minute videos. All right. So what do you think? If you are watching this, let me know. Should I keep making the videos the way I'm making? Because my idea is, if I start a topic, at least I should try to conclude that topic. Okay. I'm not doing this for the views as such, but I'm trying to make the videos that if a student watches, they can get some knowledge out of it. They can get some concepts out of it. These videos could be helpful. So let me know, right? Let's start with the. For now, I would keep the videos short, at least for the biology topics, right? So 1.3 features of organisms. So let's start with cells, right? So I just want to introduce what the cell is, right? We already know that all organisms are made up of one or more cells, right? If you have a one cell organism, we call it unicellular organism, right? So it's an organism entirely made of a single cell. That's it. An example, most of the bacteria are unicellular, right? Very famous bacteria is E. coli, Escherichia coli. The second type is the multicellular organism. So as the name suggests, the word multi means many. It's a very common English word, many, right? Or several. So these are the organisms made of large number of cells, right? And not just cells, they would have tissues. Cells combine or they interact with each other, performing similar functions to form tissues, maybe organs and organ systems. For example, plants are multicellular organisms, and all the animals are considered multicellular organisms. So that's it. Now, if we go to a cell, basically every organism is made up of one or more cells, right? So there are certain features which are common in all cells. Okay? So every cell must have a cell membrane, which is the primary barrier around the cell, and that controls the transport. Anything going in or out of the cell is controlled or regulated by the cell membrane. Then inside the cell membrane, there is a fluid called cytoplasm. Every cell must have a cytoplasm. DNA. Every cell usually at some stage must have DNA molecule, okay? So these are like cellular structures. DNA is a macromolecule, a big molecule. Then there's another thing that I'm putting a star here, not always, but usually, a ribosome. Okay, ribosomes are granular structures, right? Very tiny, small granules, right? And these granules are called protein factories because they are involved in protein synthesis. So these are some of the features that must be present or that are usually present in every type of cell. Okay. Apart from that, every cell must have a bunch of other molecules like protein molecules, for example, like enzymes and all that. We would come back to those topics later on in details. If you have any questions related to that, do let me know. Now let's talk very briefly about the types of cells. Types of cells. So there are two major types of cells. Okay. You know what those two types are. Most of the students know that, at least the names. Okay. So number one are prokaryotes. Prokaryotes or prokaryotic cell. And then eukaryotic cell. And please remember that. Right? We will try to learn the difference between them. Okay. So pro means before. Usually when we say pro these days, we mean that we are talking about professional. Okay. That guy is a pro something. So that guy is a professional in his field. So, but in biology, we say pro means before. And the word karyotic or karyon means nucleus. So these are simple cells or simpler cells which evolved before there was a nucleus in the cells. So they don't have a nucleus. They do have DNA, but their DNA is openly sitting there in cytoplasm, usually at the center of the cytoplasm. All right? So no nucleus means their DNA does not have a membrane, a nuclear membrane around the DNA. Okay? So also they won't have any membrane bound organelles. Like inside the cell, there are no organelles which would have their own personal membrane, like very famous mitochondria or chloroplast. So mitochondria have two membranes, chloroplast have two membranes, so they don't have such, these prokaryotic cells don't have such organelles. Now you might be thinking, if you don't know already, you might be thinking like, what are organelles? So organelles are subcellular, like smaller than cell structures inside the cells that are performing specific functions for that cell. Okay, let me write it at the bottom. Right? So what's an organelle? Organelle is basically a subcellular, smaller than cell structure that performs a specific function for the cell. For example, mitochondria is an organelle, and it is responsible for energy production, okay, or breaking down food and making energy. Chloroplast is responsible for photosynthesis. I told you earlier the ribosome is responsible for protein synthesis, okay. So these are organelles. But ribosome is present in all the cells. It does not have a membrane, okay. It's like a small grain, okay, no membrane. So that can be found in prokaryote as well as eukaryote. Please remember that. Now if we go to eukaryote, the EU means true, and karyo again means nucleus. So they have a true nucleus, a proper nucleus, okay. So nucleus is present. It means their DNA or chromosomes are inside the nuclear membrane, right? DNA inside the nucleus. Okay, we will talk about nucleus in detail in the upcoming lessons. They do have other membrane-bound organelles. Right? For example, they would have mitochondria. They would have, some of them would have chloroplast, depending upon the different types of cells, okay? So these are present, okay? In case of prokaryotes, we have examples, right? So examples of prokaryotic cells are bacteria, okay? So whenever I say, or whenever somebody say prokaryote, you need to remember 2 points. Number one, they don't have a nucleus. Number two, best example is bacteria. All right. And in terms of eukaryotes, the best example would be like plant cell or maybe animal cell, including human cells, right? So that's the major difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now, I want to end the lesson here. We did a little bit difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, but before we move forward, right, I want to introduce 5 kingdoms to you, okay? So all the organisms that we have discovered so far, they have been divided into 5 kingdoms, right? So the 5 kingdoms, right? All organisms are divided into 5 kingdoms, right? So what are those 5 kingdoms? I hope you already know that, right? Number one, the simplest, we have kingdom Prokaryote or prokaryotes. Number 2, we have Protista, also called Protista, okay? Or the kingdom is called Protista and the organisms are called protists. And number 3, we have fungi. Number 4, we have plants or kingdom Plantae. And number 5, we have animals, right? The kingdom is called Plantae or plants, right? And Animalia, right? So these are plants and these are animals, including humans, right? So let's talk about them a little bit, if that's okay. I'm just going to give you a basic idea, all right? So the examples, right? in prokaryotes, the example, so out of these 5 kingdoms, only the first one have prokaryotic cells. That's it. This one is the prokaryotic cell. The rest of the 4 kingdoms, they all have eukaryotic cells. So this is the first point you need to know. Okay, all of them, okay, have eukaryotic cells. Right? So if you take a cell from the Protista kingdom or fungi or plant cell or animal cell, they would have nucleus at least at some point in their life. Okay, that's the number one. Now examples. In the prokaryotes, I gave you the example, right? Bacteria, best example. We would talk about it in detail. In Protista, the best example is amoeba, right? It's very famous. We would draw it later on. Fungi, the best example are the mushrooms, right? And in the plants, you can write the name of any plant, okay? Roses, right? Or petunia, sunflower, apple, any fruit related plant. Animals, right? Like cats, etc. and all that, okay? So all of these are eukaryotes. Only the first kingdom contains prokaryotes without the cells, without nucleus, okay? Bacteria. So that's the thing that you need to keep in mind, right? So now what we can do is break down their features one by one. So we can start with bacteria. We have already talked a little bit about bacteria. We can draw the structure in the next video and talk about it. Okay. So thank you so much. I would leave it here and we can continue. I think we can make I can make short videos about each kingdom, and then we can go in detail into the kingdom Animalia. All right, animal kingdom. So take care. If you have any questions, let me know. Bye.